Alright, we got asked the other day what some of our biggest budgeting hacks or things we see in budgeting are, and it's a lovely question because it's it's the cornerstone to everything. And if you haven't read our ebook, budgeting cash flow cornerstone to financial success, make sure you do. Reach out, I'll flick it across. But some of the biggest things we see now as a mindset overall, one of the biggest things we see is people focusing on the little cost, like really insignificant little cost as a savings, rather than the big things they're costing themselves, So things like someone will go to the groceries and they'll look at toilet paper per sheet and shit like that, right? Now, what I'm trying to say is that's still a good thing, but people are doing it backwards. You're starting at the small things and then still overspending on the big things. So what I mean by big things, like gifts, right? Every single person in your family's birthday, every year, you're spending hundreds of dollars. You spend 10, 15, 20 grand a year on gifts for people that it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm sure they'd be happy with a happy birthday or something small. But you'll do that every year and you won't budget for it and you don't have the money to do it, but you'll do that every year. But then you'll go to the grocery store and you'll look at which toilet paper per sheet's the cheapest and go for that. Or which milk per litre, whatever, like shit like that. You'll budget on the cents, but you don't give a fuck about the dollars. Makes no sense, bro. Definitely don't make dollars. So that's probably the biggest one, is that mindset switch, You not having the lowest mortgage rate, or you not paying your mortgage off fortnightly instead of monthly, that's costing you tens of thousands of dollars, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars if your interest rate hasn't been reviewed in a while. Yet you'll go to the shop and you'll really tighten up on that stuff. Your superannuation being in the wrong investment, or being in the shitty fund, or you not making the adequate contributions, that could be costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you'll still go to the shop and match up sheets of toilet paper. One of the biggest ones is definitely food. Probably the 3 to 4 biggest expenses we see in most of our clients. The first one's tax. You get to the end of the year and you think your little $2,000, $3,000 tax return was a big saving, when you could have done strategies over the last 5 years. It could have saved you tens of thousands of dollars in tax. That's everyone's biggest expense if you planned ahead rather than just waiting till June and seeing what you can deduct. That's a huge one. And then we look at housing. Putting a roof over your head is expensive, and analysing mortgage versus rent and maximising that to the best of your ability, that's a big expense. And then childcare. Childcare is massive. You can plan ahead for childcare. Schooling, that's a huge expense that people have that they could minimise or look at other options for. And then probably the most common, easy to fix one is food. Without a doubt, food. Spending $300 at the shop, at the weekly shop, but then, I'm gonna meal prep, but then eating out at lunch every day, $10-20 a day, and then throwing out $150 worth of that shop. Just be real with yourself. If you're not gonna cook, get pre-prepared meals. Stop doubling up on expenses. Other than that, the mindset shift is without a doubt, the mindset shift is by far the place that you're going to save the most money on your budgeting and cash flow. Is changing from thinking about those little expenses, those $1 and $2.50 savings, and actually looking at what you're costing yourself over your whole life. Because I guarantee it's going to be tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars a year because you're not doing the right things across the board. And they're very easy switches, and that's when we say to people get really cost-conscious people come to us and, really struggle paying our couple of $1,000s a year or whatever it is, but we're not an extra expense, because if I can't save you that plus tens of thousands or more across all the other things you're doing, I wouldn't ask you to become a client. And that's where we look at, people think that budgeting is just spending less than you earn, but it's not. It goes across the whole board. Budgeting and cash flow go together. like two peas in a pod. And that goes across everything from investments to, where is your money going? Where are you spending every cent of your dollar? Every dollar you earn, where is it going? And how do we maximize that across the board? Now, we might save you 20,000 on the cash flow, so just on the ins and outs, but then we'll be looking at saving you hundreds of thousands on your investments, on your superannuation, on your retirement portfolio, on your mortgage, how you're paying it down over the course, how you're using that equity for tax savings. It's a real no-brainer. But yeah, budgeting cash flow tip numero uno is change your mindset. Change your mindset from trying to save on those little things and look at the bigger things. Look at over the 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. What can you do now that's going to save you that across that time? Not just which toilet paper is better. But if you're looking at a short fix, a definite short fix, the two biggest short fixes I'll give you. Shopping, consider using somewhere like Aldi. Do bigger shops at Aldi and that'll save you hundreds across the year. And then secondly, set up a budgeting and cash flow system that's automated and achieves your goals, so you're saving or spending money first in the areas that are correct, and whatever's left over you can play with. That'll immediately change your life. If you haven't watched our budgeting and cash flow episode with me and Loz on the Financial Education series or read our ebook, jump on YouTube, have a look, or flick me a message or an email or whatever, and I'll flick them across to you. But they're key. That is key to getting yourself ahead. ASAP Rocky.